Moneyality. 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 With the Moneyalogist, Miss Tanya Collins.
2, 1, 0.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Hi, I am so excited tonight to come on. Happy Monday. And tonight I am going to do something different. I am starting a 5-week series to explain all of the moneyality types. So without further ado, my name is Tanya Collins. I am the Miss Moneyalogist, and I love talking about how we as children, how we are adults feel and think about money. And I've talked about there are 5 moneyality types that make up moneyality. The first one is splurger, then there's a keeper, a tracker, an adventurer, and a mingler. So tonight we're going to only talk about the splurgers. And the splurgers are the people that do excessive circulating of their money. And I am going to talk about it from the perspective of how the child reacts, and also how some tips of how the parents should be able to talk to their child as a splurger. So I'm going to get started first with talking about sponsors that have been sponsoring Moneyality since its beginning. And the first sponsor is Nick Venti Design. Nick is a one-stop shop for mobile apps and animation and web design. He is awesome. He does a great job. He is my web designer, and his number is 662-902-9737. And my other sponsor is Joy Media Group, joymediagroup.net. She is very cool. Her number is 901-618-9501. And if you're looking for someone to produce your podcast or to help you form events, Joy Media Group is the people to call. So thank you for them. And I also want to talk about another sponsor, which is Some Kind of Way Solutions, which is a nonprofit that talks about the culture and financial literacy and social skills for students. And that nonprofit is something that I created that I wanted to enhance by using Moneyality as part of that nonprofit. So those are the 3 sponsors for tonight, and I don't want to be on long, so I'm going to do 30 minutes about each one of them for the next 4 weeks. And so tonight, again, I said we were going to be talking about the splurger. And the splurger is the excessive circulators. And I use circulators instead of spenders because I talk about all the time that spending means it's kind of final. Like I spend money, it's kind of final, and people tend to feel different when they're like, oh, I spent my money, and it just seems like, oh, it was just gone and it's never to return. But I like to use circulators because splurgers, they do circulate their money. They are what really kind of fuels a community, or they love to go out and purchase things. So they kind of keep the economy going. And I'm going to talk about some really positive things about being a splurger. And I'm going to talk about things that we can also help them to make better financial decisions by, slowing down maybe some of their purchases and maybe setting a budget. It's just also the way that you talk to us splurgers. Splurgers are just amazing people. If you got a friend, think about it. If you got a friend who, when you go out with them, most of us have a circle of friends, and we always tend to have at least one splurger in the group. And so think about it. You got this splurger friend. This is the friend that when you go out they are the ones that's like enjoying themselves. They order all the things they want. And if you don't have money, they're like, oh, you get that. I'm going to pay for it. I'm treating tonight. If something big happens, they love to celebrate, and they are just really generous people. And that can become issues for them because we know that someone that recognizes that a splurger is taking them out, they may tend to not want to take their wallet, or because they know, oh, that splurger person, they got me. So I'm also going to talk about ways that we don't want to just totally manipulate them and just make them feel like that they are obligated, because they are that generous. They really will help. And so I'm going to be sharing tips about how we can help them to understand that it's not necessarily their job to make sure everybody's food gets paid or the bill gets taken care of, but they do give really great gifts too. So we're going to talk about that. They will go out and purchase things that they really know their friends like. And so there are just lots of good things about splurgers. And I'm going to really try to emphasize those things because we want to keep this positive. Well, of course, we know that there are things that we could always say that are negative, but some of the positive things about a splurger can also, some of the negative things about a splurge, I'm sorry, can also be turned around to be positive things. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm really excited. So I'm going to start by just kind of giving you an overview of some of the things about a splurger. Splurgers are people that they love buying things. They are great gift givers, and they are party people. They are normally very excited. They like to go out. They are, as I like to call them, they are trendsetters. Splurgers are the people that are going to have the newest phones. They're going to have the biggest TVs in the house. They're going to have the baddest clothes. They are going to have the newest cars. They like the glam and glam of just really being the trendsetter, being the first to get things. And a lot of us wants to be the first. You know, when you're in a race, you want to win. So you want to be the first to cross the finish line. So we always think of that as a positive. Well, being a splurger, it's really cool to see that, wow, you know, somebody's got to be the first one to try it. So the splurgers normally are the ones to just jump right in and they start. They may, like I said, they're going to be the ones that go to a store. They don't look at price tags. If they see something that they love for themselves, they're going to purchase it. If they see something that you may like as a gift for your birthday, holidays, or whatever, they're going to get it. They don't look at prices because their value of what they're doing is impulsive, but it's also because they just want to be very generous, and they want to, and they don't do it just because they want people to like them. I don't want you to be misunderstand me. Splurgers just have that personality. And so I'm going to talk about how we can, like, again, start to help them to, kind of understand how they could budget a little more, how they don't have to always have the instant gratification. So the first thing I want to go back up and talk about is splurgers are people that like to be in control of their money. So I'm going to tell you, I like to focus this really on children or teenagers, but so we're going to start with the teenagers. So teenagers are children that, they want to play sports, they want to go to the prom. So you're going to have this splurger child, and a splurger child is one that probably wants to be in several different activities. They may be cheerleaders, they may be football players, they may play basketball. So, all of those things require different equipment, different uniforms. And so when they are telling their parents this, their parents probably like, oh my gosh, no, you're going to have to select just one or two of these because lots of parents can't afford that. And I remember that splurgers are also some of the people that I love to be around, because when I was in high school, I was like very tight with money. Like I always say, I was a keeper. But I do recall having splurger friends. And so when we were in high school, I would have a splurger friend that would say, hey, now of course, let me back up. I came from a small town, so it wasn't like we had lots and lots of things to do. But I had splurger friends that were very carefree. They really enjoyed like saying, hey, let's go to a local club that we were going to. And lots of times that we would go, they would say, hey, I got the tab, or I'm going to treat all of you all today. And so with me as a keeper, I would be excited because I'm thinking, wow, I don't have to use my own money. But I also realized that they can be taken advantage of, and people will say that they're careless or they are not very mature because they are just out there living their best lives. And that is something that we do talk about. We hear people as splurgers, they may say things like, um, we only live once, so they want to take advantage of that. And they are the people that are going to say, hey, we only live once, or I want to make sure I live my best life. So every paycheck, they may say, hey, I've got to get something for me because I am working for this money and I just want to get this. And so a lot of those things that we can frown about, I know that personally, as a keeper, which is a saver, I have been judgy. And I really know that I started Moneyality because I realized being judgy was really being, being judgy was just what it was, but really not knowing why these people were doing the things that they do, and even why I even felt like the way I felt about how splurgers were doing things. So I would talk about a splurger and tell parents that for splurgers, you really have to build relationships without criticizing them. Because as I said, they are like to be in control. So as a parent, one thing I would say is we have a real quick time to say, hey, you know what, you spend too much money, you buy too many video games, you are doing the most. Especially now, remember, we're talking about teenagers and we're talking about children doing these things because they are thinking, hey, why not? But a parent really needs to be mindful that it's not something that they may even recognize about themselves. So criticizing them is one of my no-nos. It's not cool to be just blasting them out, and definitely not in front of some of their friends. Like, you spent too much, I spent too much money on your stuff, and every time you go somewhere you think you got to have something. Those familiar sayings. That's what we do. And so that's not going to be the best solution to help a splurger. Splurgers need to be told in a way that they're like, again, they are controllers, or they want to be told in a way that they still feel that they have a say in how they get to circulate their money. And they also want to feel that they don't want to take that part of who they are away from them. They don't want you to diminish, I guess, that shine or that glow that they have. So I will say, for parents, definitely none of the criticism. Be very mindful not to criticize your child if they are splurgers. And splurgers are definitely the kids that want the instant gratification. So we know, I've talked about it before. A splurger child that's young is normally going to be the child that goes in with their parents, and you can say, don't touch nothing, you're not getting nothing, and they're still going to be able to say, they're not going to believe you. They're going to still want to be able to get something, and they're going to bug you. They're going to be like, oh, can I just have a piece of gum, or can I have something else? So I don't want to get off. So I'm going to just give examples from a young child, middle school, high school, and even as adults. So that's a look really for little kids, elementary kids. They are the ones that are very needy to be gratified. They want to have some form of gratification, very young. And so those are still the issues that you need to talk to them. And I will tell you that what we get caught up in the most is not knowing the difference between making financial decisions and then having money conversations. Those are different things. So you want to not just stress the financial part of it, of, oh, how much money are these children spending? But you want to build relationships with your children. You want to have conversations where if you got the spender child, you're able to address that part by building the relationship with them. They will respect it more. But just like I said, the criticism, we're not wanting to do that. We want to build relationships with our children. And so building a relationship with a splurger child, you have to be able to, as a parent, I would say, discuss what's realistic and set boundaries for them. So let me give you some examples. To set realistic things for them, you have to be able to say, hey, realistically, we can't afford this, or realistically, you can't afford this. And especially a child that's a teenager that has their own money. Oh, wow, that's a hard one, because they think that's my money. I can do anything I want with it. And yeah, that's true. They did work for it, but being realistic with them and letting them know that we have to set boundaries is that conversation. That's the conversation piece that's important. So being realistic with them, I will tell you to be able to show them and explain to them how it looks from someone and looking in on it, and then allow them to ask them questions like, so did you feel like it was necessary to pay for all your friends' food today? Did you feel it was necessary to buy the pizza? Or did anybody else say they wanted to chip in? And then start letting them think like, well, no, someone maybe not had any money. I had money and I was just able to do it. And so you would say, okay, you do have money, but what are some of the things you want that you might need to save your money for? And let's say we got a teenager that is in high school, got a job, and they're taking prom pictures. They're going to be needing clothes that they want to wear, the new shoes or whatever. So being realistically, you have to tell them, let's write down some of the things you want. Because of course they like to take care of themselves. Like I said, they are very much trendsetters. But you want them to start just writing down things and saying, okay, so look at what are you spending this money on? And they're going to say, oh, I'm spending on this. I got this and this. And then you have to have them, maybe I would recommend is to ask them, hey, if you can keep a journal, or not journals anymore. Oh, let me back up. But if you can keep on your phone, and there are apps out there that you can use to track all of your spending every day. And so if they're spending, also, you want to let them know that spending does sound like it's such a harsh thing. But if you believe in this moneyologist, you're going to teach them that circulating money is really a cool thing. Like, you circulate it and money will be coming back to you. It's not that there is there's a limited amount of money that's out there. And that's really something that you want to kind of definitely realistically tell them, that You do not have to circulate this money so quickly because you feel like there is no more. Sometimes there's a scarcity mentality for people, but that's not a splurger. A splurger doesn't do it just because of scarcity or that they are just so afraid, but they do need to recognize that there are limits to what they have. And at their age, they need to be more thoughtful. And so when you set these boundaries, tell them to start tracking, or just tell them, hey, if you track your circulating of your first check or for your allowance, just track it for me. And just maybe tell them that if you can track this for a day, maybe 2 days, if you can get them to do it for a week, that's even better. And then you'll be rewarded, and they're going to want that reward because, again, they like to have instant gratification. So if you want them to track it, that's where they'll start recognizing when you have that conversation with them again and you're going through their ideas of what they tracked on their circulating of that day, that week, or whatever you all decide on. That's when they have a real reality check. And that's when it's going to be the best time to say, hey, you don't have to say, as most splurgers will tell somebody, I got you. I mean, they are so generous to their friends. They're going to say, I got you. So you want to go through those trackings and say, wow, how many of these were I got you? Were you, I got you for the pizza? Was it, I got you for getting in the movie theater? Was it, I got you because they didn't have lunch money? Just whatever the I got you was. Have, when they're tracking that, I think they'll have a better reality. Like, wow, I did not know that I was helping Bob every time we went to the movies with I got you, Bob, because you may want to think, wow, why is Bob not having any money to be able to assist himself? And of course, you are going to have your splurgers say, well, you know, their situation, but sometimes they're in the same situation, but they are not seeing that because Bob could be like me, a keeper, and Bob is not going to be a splurger. He is going to circulate his money the least amount of times. And if he is circulating, it's going to be for things that are on sale, things that are on clearance. So you also can ask your child to start looking at some of their friends' behaviors. Are they doing the similar things? Is anyone saying, hey, let's take turns, or hey, let's just pay for ourselves? That could be a great idea. Let's just pay for what we all order for ourselves to be self-sufficient, to be able to say, hey, we all are in this together, or maybe pool your money together if all of you need to do things. But there are so many ways to have this conversation to help your splurger child. Okay, so I am going to go to the next one and say, parents, practice saying no to them, but also educate them on saying yes. So, of course, I just explained to you that splurgers, even adults that are splurgers, they have to be told, no, you cannot do that. And if you happen to date a splurger and you're seeing them just purchasing things all the time, and I know that sometimes we as women, or even in high school, if someone was treating me to lunch, and I would be like, wow, I got this guy, he's buying my lunch. And then you may see him say, hey, he bought everybody's drinks at the bar, and you are like, wow, he is so generous. I've never seen a man that was so willing to help me and give to me. Well, that's when that person may need to think, does my man have the ability to do all these things? Because once a splurger overextends themselves, it's going to start showing, and you're going to start seeing that, wow, is this someone that you want to marry? Those are going to be conversations that if we as adults who are helping children, we need to be and actually expose them to saying no way before they even get to the point of being married. So, or even just being in very, very serious relationships. So that's my goal as the Miss Moneyalogist. I want to be able to enhance the splurger by getting them the information they need to be able to become very knowledgeable, to become great budgeters, and to learn that there is nothing wrong with purchasing things for yourself. By no stretch of the imagination, that's not a bad thing. It's not even a bad thing to help a friend who may not have it that time. And it's definitely not a negative to be able to say, hey, I like to give nice gifts. But you also need to be able to look at how you track those purchases. And sometimes that's when the budget have to come in, and you say, hey, you gotta have to say no to this splurging on paying for somebody's food, or splurging on putting all the gas in the car, or just splurging on purchasing things for yourself. Because when they do that tracking exercise that I mentioned, they will then be able to understand where they could say no. And when they see where they can say no, they can start understanding when they can say yes. And that part of saying no is when you want to talk to them about budgeting. And budgeting comes across as like, oh, wow, here we go. We got a budget. And it seems so firm and just so concrete that there is no other option. But budgets can be flexible. All things can be flexible, because if you have in your budget a miscellaneous line item, then you can pull from that. And so what I do offer when I'm talking to and wanting to educate students on which moneyality type they are, as a splurger, I would tell them, if there are 5 moneyality types, I would want them to write them down. And each one of them would know, if they're going through moneyality, the course, they're going to know the 5 moneyality types. And so I want them to be able to use each one of those types to use as categories to decide how much or what percentage of their income, of their allowance, they want to put toward each one of them. So with a splurger, I would say, hey, if you make, I want to just do simple math with you. If you have $100 that you made with your job, $100, that's after taxes and everything, you got $100. And you got these 5 categories. So I do want the splurger to add more to his splurger account than all the rest. So if a splurger is going to add 30% for themselves, then you got 70% that they are going to learn how to put in each category. And some categories, they may say, hey, this month I don't want to put money toward the mingler, because the mingler is more of the mingler is more of the one who does the charitable things. They are like real givers to make sure that somebody has something that they need. They're always looking for ways that they can help people and just building these relationships. So a splurger already has relationships because people are attracted to them. Like I said, they're fun to be around, but they also, and they actually kind of mimic a little bit of the mingler, except the mingler will give out of the necessity of just giving it because they feel like money is not that big of a deal and that it should just be given to people who need it more than others. So the splurger feels like that somewhat too. They feel like money is really not a big deal. However, they need to be able to do the 5 categories. So if they're doing the 30% for themselves, then they may want to do, you got 70% left. So whatever their next thing is. So a splurger probably wants to do adventurous things. So they'll do 20% in their adventure. And so now they have $50 that they have put in 2 categories. Now you have 50 that you need to put in the next 3. So they can figure that out. They can say, hey, I want 10 to go over here. So now they got 60 and then they can do 20/20. But those numbers is part of the circulation formula that I created. You want to be able to add more to the moneyality type that you are so that you feel like you're paying yourself. And that's really one of the things we practice, to pay yourself. But you also have to be able to understand that you want them to see the other categories and for them to focus. They do not always focus at the best decision making skills, but when you offer them the opportunity to have the 5 categories and to add something to each one of them, then that makes it a lot simpler for them to understand and to learn how to separate their finances so that they have something in each category to save, something maybe to start investing in. Because even as a child, a teenager, I remember I told you I started my first bank account at probably about 7 or 8, and it was a Christmas Club savings account. So at this point in the 2023 and beyond, there is so much access that I have nieces and nephews that are already looking at the stock market. They can go and look at YouTube and find out ways that they can add money and start doing it through Robinhood or through Cash App, all of these places where you can start showing them how to invest really early. So with a splurger, they may not always be focused in the beginning, but that's what's the beauty of it, is having conversations with these children and not making it seem as if it is such what would you say, like a hard thing to do, like very strict, I guess that would be the word. Because again, splurgers do not want to feel controlled. So they like to do the things they do, but how they do it is, number 1, get them to understand how to track their finances. Number 2, build a relationship with them, where teenagers sometimes do not maybe think their parents know what's going on. They're out of touch. However, those conversations will be better once you expose them to seeing how there are different options and ways that they can be able to have some things for themselves, buy nice presents for someone, but to also be able to have something for savings, something for giving. And it doesn't have to always be money. And that's what I like for them to know, that when you are a giver, you can give like your clothes to someone, like if they are gently worn, give your clothes to someone. Splurgers like the idea of receiving things, and they like the idea of giving things. And so they also like for people to give them things because they are excited for their grandparents, their uncles and aunts to give them things, especially things that they love. So they definitely like that. And so splurgers love being generous and help others, but remember, you're going to help them see that if they start tracking their circulating of how they get any amount of their money, they can take it and do a formula where they will always put the splurger account would have a little more than all the other accounts. So it makes them feel confident that, wow, I'm not punishing myself. I'm still able to get some things that I want, but I'm also able to put things in a way and have it for your sunny days. Your sunny days is when you think that, wow, I have no currency, no money for my outfit that I want to wear to the prom, but you got these sunny day funds because you've already saved for those. And that's what you want your splurger child to do. And so let's see if there is any more of the things I want to kind of touch on. I think that I've kind of given you a quick overview of a splurger. I will tell you that I want splurgers to understand that what they are when we say they're excessive circulators, that's not a negative. It just means you have to be able to have amazing conversations as parents, as aunts or uncles, grandparents, and even if you are not feeling that you are secure enough to have that conversation, well then have them to look at this video and say, wow, I understood exactly what she was saying, because you're not in this by yourself, parents. And these are things that we should be teaching them in school systems. And that's my goal, is to have moneyality in all the school systems. So it's not just a burden on you, parents, that there are people in the school system that provides them with this information to help them be better, successful, and hopefully debt-free, financial freedom when they are getting older. So thank you. And that is our first moneyality that we are going to discuss. And as I said, I will be breaking each one of them down over the next 4 weeks. So have a great night. Do go out and splurge on yourself. It's really okay. And let me know if you have any questions about this. You can reach me through my social media that you see going around the bottom. I am the Miss Moneyalogist, and that is how you can reach me on most of my social media platforms. Thank you guys for tonight. I hope it has been helpful, and there is so much more that I would love to share if you just reach out to me, and I am open to talk to and do individual sessions with parents for their children if their children are open to be engaged. All right. Thank you, and have an amazing evening. I will be back next week, and we're going to be talking about the keeper. So have a good night. Take care. Peace.